Hey everybody, it's Friday and welcome to the final live executive Q&A here at the 6.5 Summit. And you can see it's a little different. If you've been with us all week, you'll notice I was at my home in Chicago for now until I get here to Austin. And now I'm here in Austin because we decided that we should finish the show like we started it. And that was together, bringing the 6.5 home. And we're super excited for this final panel. Pat, how are you today?
Doing great. You know, I knew I missed you and I couldn't be apart from you. So here we are, and we're in the same block here. You know, I mean, I don't know if our powers are half if we're in one block or they're double, but that doesn't matter. It's been an incredible day talking big data, AI, machine learning, automation. What a great way to close out the week. 50 speakers. It's pretty insane.
50 speakers, more than 30 companies, multiple live Q&As, over 40 press citations, multiple news launches from big AWS, Intel, multiple companies dropped news. You know, when we started the 6.5 Summit, this isn't what we envisioned, but you know what it's becoming? You say sometimes when you build a great product or service, it'll take its own life form. You guys, I'm sure, have stories yourselves from your own experiences. So let's go ahead and introduce the panel, Pat.
Yeah, that'd be great. So first off, introduce Josh Clark from Splunk. Josh, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you guys doing today?
Excellent. Mick, how are you?
I am fantastic. Nice to see you guys again.
You too, and everybody can see Mick's president of Cloudera. And Kumar, how are you, my friend?
Doing very well, Patrick and Daniel. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. Yeah, this, you know, our customers and our fans asked us to put this live piece in, and you know, we've gotten a few questions in from the community, from the press, from some super fans and some influencers. But Daniel, should we jump in?
Yeah, I think these fine gentlemen gave us a Friday afternoon. So for everybody out there, in case I didn't say thanks, thank you for tuning in.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's get them going so everybody can get to happy hour.
Yeah, so let's start off with AI here. So it does feel like AI has found its way into everything we use on the consumer side and a little bit more slowly on the business side. And some use cases like natural language processing, right, that we see in commercial bots and even in consumer bots apply to analytics. But as we accelerate the R&D, training and inference are becoming more and more capable. And curious, what are some of the next advancements in AI that will influence our lives or our work? And maybe Kumar, I can start with you.
Thanks, Pat. I'm very excited the AI influence in the healthcare. I think that's one area that's going to touch all of us, both from the pediatrics to all the way. And I have a colleague and a friend who is a researcher in Stanford, and he tells me today the diagnostics of the radiology is at 99% accuracy or something like that. It's just unbelievable number. But as I listen to them and as I apply my own thinking into it, it's very clear to me we are yet to see phenomenal advances in the diagnostics. And as many people know, that's one area that the radiologists or doctors miss, right? And we want it to be as accurate, and it helps coincide with the human intelligence and artificial intelligence. This is one area where the inference and the training and the keep training the model is going to have a profound impact in the next 10 years.
Yeah, I love that example, and I remember NVIDIA showing some examples of that, of what could be. It wasn't in process, but it just blows your mind away. So, Mick, as part of your end-to-end data service, right, all the way from ingestion, cleaning it up, to securing it and managing it, you also apply machine learning along the way as well. What are your thoughts on some of the biggest advancements in AI?
Yeah, I would echo Kumar's remarks there for starters, and I would say that a couple of things. One, look, most of ML is about pattern recognition and then finding anomalies in those patterns. And in our case, we've had a lot of great success with life sciences companies. In some cases, some of the ones that were responsible for helping bring vaccines to the world. And obviously that's had a profound impact on all of us here. You guys get to sit next to each other, thanks to some of that great work. But you can't actually pound through that much data in an intelligent way if you can't get through that quantity of data with the automation that's provided by these new machine learning models and algorithms. So I would echo Kumar's remarks on where the most human impact is anyway.
Yeah. So Josh, I mean, Splunk, observability, security, so many different areas that you guys are getting into. How about you?
Yeah, well, I think at the macro level, the impact on our lives, whether it is healthcare, drug delivery, life sciences, I think that's huge. I'm personally really interested in what's happening with computer vision. Actually, just speaking of getting back in person, I just had my first team offsite, which was in person in our Splunk offices. So it was odd having an offsite in the office. I was up in San Francisco, and in San Francisco, the number of self-driving cars that are driving around creating labeled data sets is really, really interesting. And so I think the intersection of kind of AI and specifically inference driving the demand for labeled data sets ends up being a really interesting combination. So I think one of the trends that we'll really see is both tools for creating high quality data labeling, as well as data labeling and labeled data sets as kind of an asset that impacts things like computer vision. If you look at what folks like Zoox are doing, identifying hand gestures, so a self-driving car can identify someone who's looking at a cell phone, so the algorithms can respond accordingly. And then in our world, Mick got it right. It's all about pattern detection. Observability is, how do you observe a system? How do you take observations from that system? And how do you identify patterns? And the more you can do that with AI and intelligence, and the less you do it with people, the more efficient you can be as an operation.
Yeah, there's a lot of the labeling makes me think of a lot of the edge applications and how we're going to use computer vision to scale and get these accelerated into the market very quickly. So those are some definite good examples, and thank you all for taking that one. I want to talk about something that's a little bit macro. I wrote a book called Human Machine, and we spent a lot of time in the process of writing that book thinking about the future of work. And we'll get to some questions that are a little more in your product wheelhouse, but I like these slightly ephemeral questions when I have a panel like this. And Josh, I'm actually going to stick with you on this one, but automation, okay? You guys all have teams. You all have teams of people. And automation and AI are becoming more pervasive. It's changing the way we work. It's changing the time it takes to get tasks done. We hear about it, whether that's through intelligent process or AI and training and learning workflows. It's changing our industries. It's disrupting jobs. Talk about the pros and cons of automation and how you see it influencing the workplace, maybe through the lens of your own teams, maybe through the lens of just the broader markets. But I'd love to get all your perspectives on this. I'll start with you, Josh.
Yeah, I think to not expose my fundamental views on human nature, my view is that with every revolution, whether it's agriculture, whether it's industrial revolution, kind of these technology waves have fundamentally changed economics, but the result is overall value creation. The pie has gotten bigger as we have improved and made these revolutions that improve productivity, that maybe fundamentally change jobs as they are today to jobs how they will be in the future. So I think automation frees us up at a macro level to be more productive, to add more value. I think that the vaccines and the application of AI and ML to the rapid development of something that was really a threat to society is a great example of kind of the mix of kind of being able to do things a lot faster and the subsequent impact on society. I would say in my world, especially when we think about SaaS software, like the job for us as SaaS software providers is to do things faster, to get feedback faster, and make adjustments faster. And so any automation that helps us deliver products and features faster to our customers ends up being helpful. So whether it's things like product analytics, A/B testing, all of those things at a micro level in my world as a product leader end up putting us in a position where we can deliver value faster.
Yeah, and I'm gonna make you go last here, so just hold on. All three of you are going to have to do that, by the way. So I threw a curveball. I thought I was going to go to you, but I wasn't. Kumar, I'd love to get your take on the same thing. This is something that's very exploratory right now, but it's got to start impacting work. I know we're bouncing back, economy is going strong, jobs are up, but we can't find enough skilled workers. But at the same time, we're building technology that, is it going to displace them?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. When I think of automation, I think of removing the human fatigue. That's, I think, is a very key to I think Josh gave an example of agriculture. I think that debate has been apparently in 1900s, 95% of labor force was in agriculture, and everybody thought agricultural revolution is going to create this big unemployment. And here we are, the industrial revolution and information revolution, now knowledge revolution. Automation is a good thing. There's no two things about it, because as I said, example of using AI to detect the tumors in a radiology is an automation, if you think about it, right? You're actually using the technology. So robotic process automation is here to stay, is to make sure the manufacturing process is very fatigue driven. So I think what as Josh pointed out, as these technologies becomes better at doing things that humans are not good at, humans will move on to create a better value creation for the society and for themselves, for a betterment of their lives. That's how I think of. I'll just give you one example. This is not a plug, but just to give you how it affects. Infosight, which is HPE's product, as you know, 80% of the services never even see a human. 80% of the defects that comes in automated and resolved by, they have something like 12,000 signatures, false signatures that I've actually identified in the Nimble storage. That's a great example. I call it serviceless automation. I think it is going to change how we get our results.
All right, Mick, you're tapping your finger. You've got something.
Well, having done a few years in marketing along the way, I couldn't help myself but to jot down a couple of notes there. So I wrote down, as I thought about it, and as I listened to these two smart guys talk about it too, I said to myself, the more monotonous, the better the autonomous, and the more anomalous, the worse the autonomous. So the more frequent the anomalies happen, the more severe those anomalies may be, the better the human mind is going to be at sorting all of that out.
You need to tweet that button.
Well, we need to create a meme real quick.
I'm not even sure if I can say it again. Don't make me do it again, Daniel. There's a lot of stuff that ended in OUS.
I wrote it down.
Yeah. See, that's the kind of thing you need the machine learning for. Yeah. So in any case, though, I'm sure all of you read the book Blink. It's somewhere along the way, Malcolm Gladwell's book, but there still isn't anything superior to the human mind for dealing with rapid change and anomalies. And we're not always conscious of what we're doing when we're making those decisions, but they get more and more important over time, not less and less important. So I'm with these two. I think in the aggregate, it's very much a good thing, but we're going to have to find ways to put that creative side of the brain more to work. So humans will always have lots of good things to keep them busy and making money.
Yeah. So you didn't ask my opinion, Daniel, but I'm gonna give it to you.
Next question.
Exactly. No, it's interesting. I've been reading a lot about how machine learning was going to, replace frontline workers. And my thought is always, well, all the other workers, there's an equal possibility to do that. And, Kumar, the humanity of bringing it in there, and what have we learned from the past, in that, people were worried about the cotton gin, people were worried about virtualization and servers, right? The entire server market was going to disappear with virtualization, right? And server consolidation, and things just got better. So I just think, humans doing what humans want to do, and what they do best, it's where I'm going to wind up. So you didn't ask me, but that's my answer, Daniel.
Can you edit that out, Dana?
Sure.
I'm just kidding.
There was a lot of talk about machine learning training, inference, and years ago, really, it was about chip makers getting up and scientists talking about their frameworks, their algorithms, their chips, And, ImageNet was a great start, right? It kind of showed us that we could separate a sheep from a donkey. And I'm sure that was really cool for everybody out there, maybe one company like Google. But the rest of us have to actually make money out of this. And I'm going to hit Mick, you first with this. You and I have kind of flirted on the edge, but what are some of the prerequisites to get the best outcomes, to leverage machine learning for companies to drive revenue, lower cost, get closer to their customers?
Yeah, Patrick, you and I did have a fun conversation about this the last time that we spoke, and we're both old enough to remember a lot of old maxims from our earlier days in computing, things like garbage in and garbage out. There's no place where that is more true than in machine learning and AI. If you are not feeding enough quantity of data, high enough quality of data, enough variation in the data, then the outputs that you're going to drive, you can write the best algos in the world, you can have the smartest data scientists going, but if you don't get the data, well structured, well organized, cleaned up, it really doesn't matter a whole lot. Now, one thing I would add to the sort of far end of that, that I think is going to become more and more pronounced over time, is in the area of governance and model governance. And this is going to be another area where machines can help, but human beings that do have ethics are going to have to weigh in too, because at times the models are going to give answers that might be the right answer to the machine, but would not be the right answer to the human on the receiving end. And so all of us collectively as businesses that participate in this are going to have to help our customers collectively get better at things like model governance. So that's sort of the far end of the wire there.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out where I first heard getting garbage out. Was it first computer class in 1988? I have no.
Probably right around then. I was a rambling wreck at Georgia Tech in 1988. So
I love that.
Yeah, those punch card era though. That was.
Yeah, my old man used to actually say it to me, completely unrelated to work. He pointed into the bin and he'd say "garbage in," and he pointed to the door. Garbage goes out.
Wow.
Also true.
This conversation went a wild way. Kumar, it looks like you took yourself off of mute. Well, what are your thoughts?
Hey, poor Josh go last.
You went first.
Machine learning, my neighbor's lawnmower just went off. That's why I just muted myself so that you can hear each other. Apologies for that. No, I think I think Mick pointed out very well the ethics, and that we are already seeing the algorithms identifying has algorithms have a bias on it. So I think we have to be very careful about that. But for me, I think very important, your question about what are the best outcomes, I think the workload segregation and the silicon specific to certain workloads is starting to become a very important element. In fact, within 25-mile radius of where I live, there are at least 25 ASIC companies. And as you know, there is a renaissance of silicon, and there is a specialty silicon that's coming up that focuses on either it is radiology recognition or it is something related to the weather. There's actually very interesting evolution that's coming up. But something that we all have to be careful about, what Mick pointed out, is I think the human involvement along with the machine learning decisions is always going to be complementary. So I don't think we will all ever will say, we'll press a button and whatever machine says, we are going to just use it. Even I'll go back to my first example, even in the radiology, after the machine gives the final decision, there will be, you want to see a doctor finally and have him give you that final decision. So I think that's where and so model inference training and the data is very important. And then using the Blink example, I'll make one statement that the reason human mind is so sharp is it has so much of data that it has absorbed. So the more data you feed to these algorithms, the more better these algorithms becomes. I'm going to mute myself so that you don't hear my lawnmower.
Well, Josh got a hold of the dog. That was good, So I thought it was barking on his end.
Yeah, no, there is a dog. She doesn't like when she doesn't get to join me for meetings. Yeah.
So Josh, Splunk is all about doing great stuff with data, business outcomes, what are the prerequisites for, let's say, a machine learning, which, is fun and great, but, let's face it, it's advanced analytics, right? When it comes down to it, using different algorithms.
I mean, I think this may be a trite answer, but as a product person, it's something that comes to mind when I think about this challenge. One of the prerequisites is you have to have a business problem. Like you have to identify the problem you want to solve before you decide that AI or ML is the answer. And so being able to clearly articulate the value of solving the problem and the magnitude of the problem, I think is really critical. In our world, we're in an interesting position where I would say we have, Kumar talked about humans in the loop, or the human intersection. I think there's human intersection on the application and the use of automation, but there's also a human intersection on the creation of data sets that are labeled. And so I view our world, let's take security analytics, as a really great example of our history and at Splunk, is we help analysts really do complex analysis to identify threats, detections, breaches, notable events. In the process of doing that, they're creating labeled data sets. They're saying, hey, when I see data that looks like this, it's something to pay attention to. And so the ability to have a feedback loop of humans creating labeled data sets through doing the course of their work, and then subsequently having that feedback into a model that helps future automation, I think is a really great, so paths to labeled data, I think, is a prerequisite. And then Kumar mentioned the silicon aspect, or the right workload, a view into the workload. It has to make sense financially. From a business perspective, the problem you're solving and what it costs you to deliver the science and the automation has to fundamentally make sense. And so I think as we start to have these support for specialized workloads and infrastructure and environments that are really good for a use case, you start to unlock use cases that historically have been cost prohibitive, and now you can start to achieve them.
Absolutely. It's all about getting data to everything, I think, is what Josh was really trying to say, right?
Yes, data to everything. There we go.
Have a problem first before you're just going to throw. Well, listen, there are board of directors out there that have edicts that say we need to have at least one AI project out there, but you have to have a business problem. We saw the same thing in IoT. There were IoT mandates at the board of directors. The Economist actually wrote an entire report on that very thing.
But that comes down to a lot of not really understanding whether or not, and to all three of your points, we don't buy technology to solve technology problems. We buy it to solve business problems. And if you can't identify one, you need to find a different technology to focus on. All right, listen, it's lightning round. All right. It's 3:52 Central. It's Friday, and everybody's enjoying this. I can tell a lot of tweets, a lot of comments, but everybody also wants to go to happy hour. So on this last day, we're super excited. All three of you are going to run through a quick question that came in from press, media, influencers, from social and community. And this is then Pat and I doing our best to interpret many different questions and make it into one very poignant one. And in spirit of continuing to make Josh go last, we're going to make you go last again, because that's how we put him on paper, and I can't stray from the order.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Yes. So for Cloudera, let's start with you, Mick. You guys recently made a pretty significant pivot. Both you pivoted away from being a public company. You've also made a big pivot towards SaaS after many years of not playing in that space. Everyone's kind of interested in what really drove the decision to make that leap now. Not like SaaS hasn't been a thing for a while, so why now? And by the way, even to the point in which you might partner with cloud databases like Snowflake.
Sure. So let me start out with the word.
Lightning round. I get to ask for 2 minutes, and you get 30 seconds to answer.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, exactly. So I'll start with the word choice. I'd certainly describe it as far less of a pivot and far more of an evolution. So I think we have grown from being a largely on-prem focused company to building a great public cloud offering, a great private cloud offering, giving us what is our meat and potatoes offering today, which is a hybrid cloud offering for data management and analytics. SaaS is the next logical extension of that. And really simply put, this is all about growth for us, Daniel. So we are very, very successful in the Fortune 2000 that have very complex analytic issues. And we'd like to extend, not only in those companies by selling to their lines of business, but also extend below that and make our platform much easier to use for a wider array of people. And SaaS just happens to be the right way to do that, to take some of that complexity and kind of hide it from end users of the system. And so that's what we're going to be all about moving forward. But make no mistake, we're a hybrid cloud company first and foremost, and SaaS is just a nice addition to that platform.
Thank you. And by the way, if you want to read something very quickly, you can read my article on exactly why I thought Cloudera did that on Forbes or moorinsightsandstrategy.com.
Really fit that in.
Did you like that?
Who's doing the pitch now? Yeah,
exactly. Okay, speed round. Kumar, people are asking, what was the motivation to create a full stack? I mean, you're doing your own VMs, containers, data service, serverless. Aren't you an infrastructure company? Isn't that what software companies do?
Thanks for the question, guys. A few years ago, Antonio said the North Star for HPE is pivot as a service company, as you probably know. And since I got involved with Antonio and the EC, the team here, we recognize that there is a need for us to provide end-to-end to the customer. And GreenLake is our service, as you probably know. So it's important as you think through and refer back to some of the conversations we had in our earlier questions to give you that full experience with a specific workload optimized solutions. That's our goal. In fact, Antonio is going to announce a few interesting announcements at the Discover. Stay tuned related to that full stack experience. But I'll give you a quick example. You and I have talked about during the morning session, there is a revolution that's going on, application modernization, for a lack of a better word, and there's the insights into the data. And then we have technologies that we have, be it a data fabric, Emerald container platform, as well as MLOps solution that we have created. And HP is, as you know, is a hardware company, well known for building servers and storage and networking. So what we're doing is we're bringing all that together and piling on Mick here, providing that SaaS experience to the customer. That's our pivot as a service, what Antonio has laid out 3 years ago. That's our North Star.
Great answer.
So Josh, they say save the best for last, but we won't do any judging here. When we started this, actually, by the way, we were emulating. Remember the ESPN show where they would give you points when you'd say something? So our whole podcast idea was we were going to have quick punching, and we we're going to get the audience to basically say who was doing better. We ran away from that. We're really too competitive to pull that off. It'd be awful. But look, Josh, you guys are growing quickly. I believe I saw something about the recurring revenue of Splunk growing. I think it was fast, one of the fastest, if not the fastest. They showed a trajectory faster than I believe it was ServiceNow and Salesforce, which is pretty impressive in the SaaS space. Data to everything, which I mentioned earlier. It's the motto. It's the motto of the company. But observability in recent times has become hot. Talk about what's driving all this sudden, there's suddenly all this interest, so many companies getting in the space, acquisitions like crazy. Felt like you were there earlier. What's driving it though?
Yeah, Kumar mentioned application modernization. I think one of the big trends we're seeing in our accounts is really as customers are moving to the cloud, the surface area of what you need observability into is just exploding. And that could be in the form of ephemeral infrastructure. You've got containers going up and down, but also there's extensive use of microservices. So an application that used to maybe be a monolithic application that you could just monitor and make sure it's up or down is now a combination of 7 microservices. And so the Splunk's focus on observability is really how do you get full fidelity visibility into that entire stack as it starts to shift to the cloud. And so as customers have been moving those workloads to the cloud, they're really trying to find something that can piece together all of those transactions as they trace through microservices, give them full fidelity information into what happens when an incident occurred. And I think personally, I love observability as the term that describes what Splunk does at I would say the traditional DevOps observability description, but also at a macro level. We give companies the ability to observe their complex enterprise systems. Like on the other extreme, and this is an example I just love, one of the first customer visits I went on when I joined Splunk was to a train company. They've got locomotives, they've got train tracks, they've got trains, and they had a system called positive train control that actually collects information from all of those trains, and it sends it back to a central location. If you think about that as a complex system, how do you get observability? How do you know what's going on? How do you make sure those trains don't run into each other? How do you make smart decisions about the performance of that system? And so the observability story is at it exists at the app level, but it also exists at a pretty macro level in every enterprise.
It's a great way to wrap it up. Kumar, Josh, Mick, thank you so much for being the final segment and the last live Q&A of the 2021 6.5 Summit.
Happy to do it, Daniel, and just for you, buddy.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, everybody. Happy Friday.
Thanks.
All right, everybody. This is it. The 2021 6.5 Summit is in the books. We did it. We made it happen. We put it all to, my gosh, I'm literally taking a sigh, not a beer. But everyone out there, just want to say thank you so much for tuning in with us, staying with us for 5 days. We really do appreciate it. We hope you got a ton of value. Remember, all these sessions are available on demand. So if you caught some and didn't catch others, watch them later. Subscribe to all the streams, share them with your friends, and be sure to keep in touch and watch out for the 2022 Summit. I'm sure we'll have some big surprises for you, Pat. For you, for me?
For me, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. And there's going to be more content coming up after you sign out. Whenever you want to see Mick, Josh, or Kumar, any time of the night you can.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everybody.
That's it. Signing out.
Bye.
Bye.